Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Thank you for downloading episode 283. This week, we debate the debate. Suing for following the law. Thank you, land again. Back in chains. The government grocery bill increases. The pit heard round the world. Don't talk gender. A gerrymander fail. Putting out the writs. And Trump versus Fani. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, Representative Emeritus Ken Pullen.
Hey, Dave. How are you this week?
Hot!
It's hot everywhere.
Hot,
Yeah.
damn hot. So
it's-
hot you cook things in your shorts.
I heard this week that the Gulf of Mexico, there's spots where the water is 101 degrees.
Yeah, buddy.
Wow. There's no way fish are biting in the Gulf, is it?
Oh, yeah.
They bite when it's hot. What do they do? Just get down really deep?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They hang on thermoclines. And if you've ever been diving, a thermocline is where, for example, you hit 20 feet and there's a hard line that you feel and you start to shiver when you get below 20 feet. That's a thermocline.
So they hang on those. Okay. I got you.
Yeah, in air, like if when you go upstairs, if you have one air conditioning system in your house or your upstairs isn't working, as you walk upstairs, there's that one spot you hit that smacks you in the face. That's called stratification. It's the same thing in the water.
Okay.
So, especially resident fish, really what with saltwater, what affects biting is current and things like that. Fish that can sit still don't need to expend energy, so they don't eat as much. When there's a lot of current, they have to keep eating in order to get calories to burn to be able to keep up in that current.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So where freshwater fishing is a lot of moon phases and things like that, saltwater is going to be structure, current, temperature break. So where it goes from 100 degrees to 90, you may see something, or where you see two currents moving against each other that kicks up nutrients in the water. You'll see fish biting. Almost like I'm doing surf and turf again.
We got to throw a little fishing in. We got to hear about the weather and how your job's going this time of year. I know you've been busy all week.
Yeah, man, it was warm, but it's not crazy busy. Like if when we have this sort of weather in July, because everybody's home in July, it's a lot busier. But when people are gone in the middle of the day, you just don't have that urgency, that need for now. Obviously, If things are broken, they're broken. You need to go out and fix them. But things that are like, it's just not keeping up. Plus, I'm honest with people, and when it's 102 outside, and you're telling me that you can't get your thermostat below 78, that's doing pretty damn good. It's 102
right.
outside.
I think mine's on 76 at the moment. Now, my wife's not a big fan of that, but I'm also not a fan of $500 light bills at the end of the month.
I know it cuts into your travel budget.
It does. It cuts into a lot of budgets.
Put some more efficient stuff in there.
Yes, we've got to replace the entire unit probably this fall. So I'll be looking for I may have a GoFundMe account online or something to help pay for that.
Yeah, I know a guy. So, Kenny, we're bookending the show this week with the two biggest stories of the week, which dominated all the news outlets. First, we have I even hate calling it a debate because it's not a debate.
It's not a debate at all. I don't know what it is.
An 8-person wide hissy fit on.
That's a good way to describe it.
Wednesday?
Yes, it was Wednesday. Yeah. It's interesting as you look back. Everybody said that with the debate was Wednesday night, and then Trump, who we'll talk about later, turned himself in on Thursday. Everybody said he did that to sort of cut off any, to have himself in a storyline again, right? So he knew if he went down to Atlanta on Thursday, then it would end any debate coverage that anybody got, good or bad. And that's sort of what happened after last week's debate and Trump getting arrested or turning himself into Fulton County.
Right.
He's the number one story again.
So who's the big winner? Of course, we have DeSantis, Haley, Pence,
Yeah, I mean,
Christie, Scott, Ramaswamy, Hutchinson, Bergram.
I think it depends on what type of Republican you are nowadays. So I think from a lot of my more establishment Republican friends, I think they thought Nikki Haley won. From the Trump crowd, I think a lot of the Trump people like Vivek still. I think there were three clear losers. I think Tim Scott was a clear loser. I think Tim Scott's just too nice. He's a senator from South Carolina. He was up there trying to make everybody just get along with each other, and no one wants that in today's politics. Yeah, I mean,
and we talked before the show
yep.
about Tim Scott, and I think he missed an opportunity in his opening remarks to say, "I am not going to attack anyone, any Republican in this race.
Yep,
I want to talk about policy. I want to talk about moving forward. I want to talk about resume, but I am not going to attack anybody personally on the stage or the elephant not in the room."
Yep. So
something like that is he could have driven that home, and people watch him like, oh man,
yeah,
that's really Reagan-esque.
It is, but I mean, I think he was a loser because he didn't do something like that. So you've got
he also disappeared.
He did. He disappeared. I mean, he really did. He just he didn't talk towards the last part of the debate. But I think Nikki Haley, again, from like the Republican establishment, is their pick now. I think Chris Christie is the never Trumper pick. So I still think he kind of solidified that 10, 15% of never Trumpers out there. I don't like Mike Pence. It's got nothing to do with what he did on January 6th or even leading up to that. I'm just not a Pence fan. I didn't think he did well. The governor of Florida, DeSantis, he wanted to be the person everybody kind of attacked so he could be that candidate that came out and said, everybody's attacking me, so I must be the one that is doing well. But no one really attacked DeSantis this week. And I said it earlier, DeSantis is everyone's number 2 pick. It's like nobody likes DeSantis for their number 1 pick, but everybody thinks he's a great number 2. But then Vivek Ramaswamy, everybody was attacking him, and he came out, really kind of bashing on the guys. So he called them super PAC puppets. He criticized them for having these pre-made, ready-made slogans in their attacks against him. He really came out as that anti-establishment guy. And
this is a guy who laid a trap for Chris Christie.
He did. Yes, he did.
He did. When he stood up and said, "Who's this brown guy with the skinny guy with a funny last name," or something like that, and Christie goes, "That's what Obama said." "Oh, really? You're going to embrace me like you did him?"
Yep, the same. Yeah, and this is when Chris Christie hugged Obama getting off the airplane back in I can't remember the year that would have been.
Sandy.
Yep.
And it's absolutely appropriate to shake the president's hand. Look, I am no Christie fan. Other than if I go to Jersey, I know he can hook me up with the best meatball sub in Jersey.
No doubt.
But when you're literally begging for federal help for your state, you don't get anywhere by turning your back on the president.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Obama or Trump, if they show up to help, you extend your hand.
Yep. No, I agree.
And if the president goes in for a hug, damn right, you give him a hug. Whatever it takes. I need help. I need FEMA out here. I need to get my citizens help.
Yep.
So
he's taking a lot of heat on the hug. That was it's a hug that's going to keep. I don't know. I'm not sure it's coming back to haunt him. I don't think Christie can win any type of election, but if I was running against Christie, I would be showing the hug with Obama.
He is extremely intelligent.
Yes, he is.
He's wrong on a lot of stuff, but he's extremely intelligent.
Yep.
He's well-spoken, but his optics are just awful, man. And I'm not just talking about being fat. I'm fat.
But you see, a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, he was on the airplane and he was leaning back and he had his feet out in front of him, and the optics just looked terrible for him. No, he looked better on stage the other night, I thought. But
because he kept his jacket on. He tries this,
and he was behind the podium.
This politician thing where you loosen the tie and take off your jacket. Well, it doesn't work when you're 400 pounds because you look slovenly. And look, I'm keenly aware of that of being a bigger guy. Is I can't, I don't even take the trash to the street without throwing a shirt over my undershirt or something like that. Cause I don't look, I look slovenly if I'm not dressed properly. And that's something that he needs to accept. Look, Jerry Nadler, I mean, he is the king of looking like a frog painted in a suit.
Yes. This is a congressman from New York, right?
Yeah, it's so I'm not banging on him for being fat. I'm really not. I mean, I'll make jokes. I make jokes about myself. Just he needs.
You can be overweight and still look nice. So he's overweight and doesn't look nice.
Yeah,
that's
he's a mouth breather.
Yep.
And it's just not a. If you were to take all that away, I still wouldn't agree with Christie.
Yep.
But he would have done much better because he's a lawyer. He's a talented litigator.
No, he is. Now, I thought what was interesting with Vivek, though, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I picked up on clips afterwards. It just makes me cringe watching this debate format where everybody's attacking each other. Everybody's jumping in at different points. I just can't stand the format. You never get any policy type questions out there. There needs to be, hey, what do you think about this policy? And then they need to have 2 minutes to talk about where they would be on that particular policy without this whole back and forth. I mean, it just turns into a real mess. But I thought the point that, and I was sitting there with my wife and daughter watching it, when Vivek said, and this was a quote from him, he said, the real choice we face in this primary is this: do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution? And I stand on the side of the American Revolution rather than this incrementalism. So I thought that was a pretty cool point he made. Now, do I think he's going to go up there if elected and have some big revolution? I don't. But he did promise on that stage to immediately get rid of the Department of Education and start dismantling the federal bureaucracy. And I don't think anybody else on that stage would do any of that. I mean, look, Trump didn't do it. George W. Bush didn't do it. Like, when has there ever been a Republican president actually went up there and shrank the government? I mean, it's never happened.
He can't get rid of the Department of Education, first of all.
But it'd be nice to try. Yes.
You
could do certain things,
what Trump
right?
did with the EPA, which was gut it. Yeah, take somebody who hates the EPA and put him in charge of it.
Take funding away. I mean, you're funding the Department of Education.
Well, he can't. Well, I guess
he can't personally, but he could get a Thomas Massey, or he could get the Republicans on his side to start defunding certain governmental agencies. I would think. I mean, if they can't, what's the point in having any of this stuff?
I think that's a good argument for anybody on that stage is, and Pence tried to make this argument. He just does it so poorly.
Yeah, he does it really bad.
Which is, I can work with Congress.
Yeah, but working with Congress, what has that gotten us working with Congress? It's gotten us $32 trillion in debt, right? I mean,
well, you can't get anything done without Congress. You can't control. The Congress has the purse strings.
Do we need anything done? And look, they did hit. That's what a couple of them. And Nikki Haley did this, which I thought was very effective for her. She hit Pence on the money that him and Trump spent during COVID and before COVID. She said, "Listen, guys, you spent $2 or $3 trillion. Signed off on that big relief recovery package, and you're up here now talking about you're going to be fiscally conservative." And you just got done with not being fiscally conservative. So I thought that was something that Nikki Haley, kind of being on the outside, can hit Pence about. I don't know. He's really the only one she can attack on that.
She said that she would increase spending to Ukraine.
Oh yeah, and that was the biggest thing to me too. Is almost everybody on that stage, with the exception of Vivek, and I don't quite know where DeSantis stands on this, but they are so hawkish on getting the military involved all over the world. I mean, that's all Pence wants to do, is like get us involved everywhere, right? So it's the neocons of the party.
And I don't know if it was Haley or which one it was. They didn't know they were doing this, but they brought up the Truman Doctrine.
Right.
When they said, well, if Ukraine falls, Poland's next, and then the rest of Eastern Europe, like you are literally discussing the Truman Doctrine, the domino theory.
Yep.
That got us into war in Vietnam, got us into war in Korea, got us spending millions, if not billions, in Afghanistan to fight the Russians, which all that money came back to fight us because the Mujahideen didn't just disappear when the Russians left. they're the same group of people that we fought for 20 years in Afghanistan, that we trained originally.
Yep.
Or at least the sons and daughters. Well, not daughters, because they can't go to school or do anything else. But certainly fought the sons of the Mujahideen.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was meaningless at the end of the day. This debate, though, I mean, everybody's going for number 2. We talked about this. Trump's the pick.
They don't understand what they're saying, and that's what amazes me with all the money these people have.
I know.
In their
it's the advisors too.
Like
who's advising them to say what they do? I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Is they have no historical perspective. Either they don't have the historical perspective to understand what they're saying, or they think the voters are too stupid to understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I think that's it. And even, towards the end of the debate, there were a couple things that came up. DeSantis, they asked all the candidates, raise your hand, which is the stupidest thing you can do. They asked them a couple times to raise their hand if they supported, A, B, or C, but they said, raise your hand if you will support President Trump if he's a Republican nomination, if he's elected as the Republican representative for president. And Vivek throws his hand up right away. DeSantis is in the middle of the stage. He looks to his right to see what the person on his right is going to do. And then he looks back at Vivek, and it takes him literally about 2 seconds to kind of barely put his hand up. And as soon as he did that, Trump's campaign was putting videos out on DeSantis and attacking him. It's just, I don't know. I mean, did he not know that question was coming about would you support President Trump if he's a nominee? I mean, everybody at home knew that was coming.
And look, you and I talked about it before. Had he left his hand down, he gets an extra 30 seconds to address the voters.
Oh, 100%. Throw it up or leave it down.
And then when they come back and say, Governor, well, you're the only one who didn't raise his hand, and you signed the pledge, and you say, I intend on honoring my pledge, but I cannot blindly say I'm going to support somebody when I don't know what's going to happen in the next 14 months.
Yes. I mean, all these guys are so far behind. You've got to do something. And that would have been something for DeSantis to just leave his hand down and then explain it. But yeah, he didn't. And then he looked like a fool for kind of like having it halfway up. I mean, Jesus. Also, I don't know if
First
you watched
halfway up doesn't satisfy anybody.
No, halfway up was an idiot. I don't know if you watched the Trump interview with Tucker, but that Trump interview with Tucker that they released during the debate or right before the debate is one of the most viewed videos, if not the most viewed video on Twitter of all time. So at this point, it's eclipsed over 200 million views.
Oh, yeah. Now, let me ask you something, Kenny. Do you ignore my double entendres and bad jokes, or do they just pass you by?
Yeah, it just passed me by. Kind of move on. I was wondering if you noticed.
Yeah, no, I did. At least I'd get a groan out of Jessica.
Look, I think what's going to happen here, I can't imagine. I guess there's another debate scheduled in another month. It's going to be a smaller crowd. It looks like Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, and Asa Hutchinson won't qualify. So it looks like we'll have 5 or 6 people in that debate.
And look, I like Bert.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I do.
He looks like Bert from Bert and Ernie.
He actually seemed like a good guy. Yeah, I actually liked his answer to a couple of questions.
Yeah, and humorous about his broken leg. I mean,
so he broke his leg. How did he break his leg? Riding a bike, or was it skating? Or
I don't remember. I have no idea. I didn't even know who the hell he was.
I didn't either.
I mean, I know his neighbor to the south because she's all over TV.
Yep.
And honestly, pretty damn attractive.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, that certainly doesnesn't hurt, does it? It's
no,
like,
it doesn't hurt.
Move to South Dakota. I'm like, okay.
And you're talking about Kristi Noem, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. But no, he had some good answers. He was nice. He was articulate. He did everything right except for nobody knows who the hell he is.
No, I don't know how he got enough support to get on the stage, to be honest. Because I'd never heard of this guy before.
There were a couple of them that were cheating on the threshold. Like donate $1, get $1.50 back or something like that. There were some shenanigans to get the number of donors that they needed.
Wow.
And I don't know that was him, but I know there were some shenanigans to get people on the stage. And the fact is you got on the stage. Now you have to perform. And look, if you were in the wings, if you weren't the center 3 or even 4, you might as well be all the way off the wings of the stage because it's done. The
Yep.
Tim Scott that's all the way at the end, no. It's just, and I really like Tim Scott. I wish his message could get out, the way he handles politics and his friendly demeanor and all. I wish it could get out. Same thing with Bergram or whatever his name is I really like his demeanor. I liked his answers to a lot of questions. I appreciate his humor, especially with my jokes. I make myself the butt of a lot of my jokes.
That's sort of best kind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, self-deprecating humor. I mean, it's great to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's endearing to people. I'm not saying
yes,
I'm
it
endearing
is,
to people,
100%.
But when the first thing you do is make fun of yourself, people let their guard down. That's
do.
something that Trump does not do.
No, not at all.
He won't come out and make a crack about himself.
No, there's no joke.
Even if he does, it's such a softball to himself.
Yep.
But anyway, moving on. Elon is being sued by Maine Justice for not hiring illegals at SpaceX.
Yeah, this was your story. This was very interesting this week when I read this.
So because he does ballistic missiles,
Okay.
even though they're not designed to go and crash anywhere else, but because he shoots intercontinental, basically ICBMs.
Yep.
He falls under ITAR, which is a regulation that covers arms dealers. So my friends who are in the gun business, they have to deal with ITAR also because some of their guns if you make so many guns a year, you have to deal with ITAR.
Okay.
Because it deals with international arms trade, and part of that is your employees have to be permanent residents or citizens. It's E-Verify. It's a stepped up E-Verify. So what the Justice Department is saying is because he doesn't hire asylum seekers, in other words, border jumpers, he is in violation of their civil rights because they have to be treated as any other American.
Okay.
And he actually when he was questioned that why don't you hire, why don't you hire people who are not American at SpaceX? Again, at Tesla, no problem. His other businesses, no problem. But why not at SpaceX? And he says because of ITAR. We have a very high bar to meet on this. And a lot of not Native Americans, but Americans don't qualify to work for me because
Right.
of the security concerns with ITAR.
So what? I mean, I looked at a law school. I mean, how much of this was politically motivated? That's what
All of it.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this, I said, this has got to be the U.S. Justice Department again coming after Elon Musk, and they probably could find 50 other companies that have to sue in regards to this type, to this policy. But again, this has got to be the Justice Department led by the president coming after a private company.
Now look, it's not legal, but I can show up at your house and change your air conditioner with 10 illegals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not legal, but nothing's going to happen to me.
Right.
If I get a government contract, which I've had a couple building, doing jails and things like that. Everybody who steps onto that property in a Dr. Cool shirt has to pass E-Verify.
Yep.
So I don't understand the problem here with Elon basically saying, and look, Elon Musk is not a racist. He's not a xenophobe.
No, not at all.
He's just not.
Yep.
To him, we are all green. We're either consumers.
I was about to say that. Yes, 100%.
We're either his consumers, which he wants to sell to us, or we're his product he wants to sell us, or we help him develop his products. That's all we are. Otherwise, we're just non-entities to him and don't count. It's Elon is about himself, and look that most multi-billionaires are.
No, I agree. I mean, what's the old joke? If you're not paying to use a product, you are the product. I mean, I think you just said it. Yeah, like if you don't use to pay Twitter, you are the product of Twitter from an advertising perspective. Same with Facebook. Facebook's making money off of you. So yeah, I've always laughed at that joke.
Yeah, but go call back to last week. But selling my eyeballs are illegal, but they can rent them.
Yep.
So yeah, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the story because we spent so long on the debate, and not as long as the damn debate was, 2.5 hours, whatever the hell it was. But this is a hatchet job. It really is. For Elon to follow the letter of the law, and I guarantee you, he is following the advice of his legal team.
Oh, definitely.
His HR specialist, his legal team are telling him he could walk in with somebody from Venezuela that jumped the border who's literally a rocket scientist, and they would tell him, like, no, we need to sponsor him, get him a green card, and maybe in 2 years we can hire him, but we can't hire him right now.
Yep.
And trust me, if Elon could recruit some Russians to jump the fence and come to the United States illegally and work for him, he sure as hell would. Mm-hmm. Or Indians, as we get to that story later. Or we get to it now.
Like now, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, tech support has landed on the moon.
Yeah, so this is the fourth. I didn't realize this, but it was a cool story last week. India is the fourth country outside of the United States, if you believe the U.S. landed on the moon. USSR and China. So they are the fourth country to have a spacecraft touch down. And last week it touched down near the moon's south pole. So this is a big deal for India to be able to land on the moon.
Immediately, a call went to NASA telling them that their lunar rover's warranty has expired.
Nice. Yep. So they're going to stay there.
Look,
they're going to stay 14 days.
I love I love the Indian people. There is a inordinate amount of fraud that comes out of that country, but they're hugely populated with poor people who are trying to get ahead.
Yeah, some of the nice. I mean, I've been in technology for a long time, but some of the nicest people I've ever worked with were men and women from India, and they would. I once went over to one of my Indian friends' house. His wife cooked us lunch, which I stayed in the restroom for about 3 hours afterwards because I wasn't used to eating Indian food. But super, super nice. So this is cool. I mean, I know the people in India were excited about landing on the moon and staying there 14 days. Would you go to space and stay up there on the moon for 14 days?
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, nice little vacation.
Mostly because my cell phone wouldn't work.
I know exactly. Nobody get in touch with you.
Traveling out of the country used to be much more exciting for my wife because my cell phone wouldn't work.
Yep.
Now most places I go, between internet calling and all that stuff, I have access to my voicemail and emails, and it really, she only gets 1 or 2 weeks a year with just me.
Yep.
Otherwise it's with family or whatever. But the time that's spent with just me, she's sick in the head, but she considers that precious. And now as I travel the world, my cell phone worked. 2 weeks on the moon, she'd be like, hell yes, let's go.
Let's go. What I thought was interesting is they say they think that the moon could be an uncharted territory that could hold vital reserves of frozen water. So even if the moon holds all this frozen water, how are we getting all this frozen water back down to the Earth?
We're not.
Yeah. So is this just that frozen water is good? I guess if we want to stand up a colony on the moon, that we don't have to take water to the moon. I assume.
Well, true water is H2O. So the ability to mine water and change it into fuel, hydrogen, and oxygen, and other breathable oxygen.
So it lets you live on the moon at that point.
Yeah, look, the Earth has as much water right now as it had 1 million years ago.
Yes, right.
We don't create or destroy water. When you drink water, you don't destroy it. You use it. And then you use it to expel things that need to leave the body. But when that water evaporates, it goes right back into the air, comes back down as rain. Conserving water has to do with resources. If you're in an area that's having a drought or something like that. But other than that, water is the most abundant substance on Earth.
Yep.
We don't need it. We don't need to go mine it and spend trillions bringing it back from the moon. No, that's not what we need. But it would be interesting, 100, 200 years from now, the ability to separate those molecules and turn them into hydrogen fuel and into breathable oxygen.
Yeah, I guess that could be a jumping off point for other expeditions.
That's the idea, is have essentially
space.
a spaceport.
Yeah, right. That would be cool.
I don't think you and I will live to see it.
No, I don't think so either.
But to have a spaceport for interplanetary discovery and be able to launch off the moon directly to Mars or even beyond.
Yeah, that's gonna be neat one day.
Plus, there's no atmosphere out there, so imagine having an observatory on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I should say no. It's very, very thin atmosphere.
Yeah, it's very thin.
So they're winding up the mask stuff again.
Yeah, this is really starting. You're starting to see a lot more things on Facebook of people saying we won't comply, but you have seen over the last couple of weeks, and my wife teaches. There's been a lot larger number of cases of COVID that have spiked over the last 2 to 3 weeks. They're actually tracking 3 new variants of COVID. Now, I don't think any of these variants are like the Delta variant that was so deadly last summer, I guess it was. But as a result of COVID spiking back up, hospitals starting to see more patients, there are businesses and certain institutions are requiring people to wear a mask again. And the first thing I saw, was Morris Brown College in Georgia, which is a private college in Georgia, has reinstated their mask mandate for all their students.
Yeah, so did Rutgers. My parents just got back from an Alaska cruise, and they went out of British Columbia, and they're sick now. So
goodness. I'm
wondering if they didn't pick up the Canadian variant. I'm like, look, Canada is so sparsely populated across the country. I mean, sure, you have Winnipeg, Toronto, and places like that you have population centers, but overall, Canada's not densely populated.
No, not at all.
Look, this is going into conspiracy stuff. It
we
sure
never go
is.
there.
Well, Alex Jones, they're going to come out in mid-September. I've talked to people in the government, and they say mid-September they're going to come out with masks, and they're going to slowly roll it out. By October, they're going to shut down and put every small business out of business. They want you unemployed. They want you on the dole.
That is a nice
one thing
Alex
he did say
Jones
that I agree with is they want to go back to mail-in ballots.
Oh, 100%. Yes, they definitely want to do that.
And you notice we didn't see this with the Delta variant last year, but we're starting to see it now. And this goes to this is an old Russian proverb about how to trap pigs.
Mm-hmm.
You take a pile of food, you put it out, and the pigs come and they eat. Then you put one piece of fence up, and they disappear for a while. Then they get used to that fence being, then they come back. Then you do the second, same thing happens. Third, same thing happens. By the time you put the last piece of the fence on, they're used to it, and they're already domesticated.
Yep.
So when you slow roll the stuff out, unlike what we had in 2020, which was our hair's on fire, we've got to react. The theory is they'll start with airport employees like TSA will start to have to mask up again. Then by his theory, Alex Jones's theory is by mid-October, passengers on airplanes will be required to wear masks again. Then it'll start rolling out as we need to start shutting down. Now, do I think that we're going to see this problem in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, your southeast states, Texas? No, I don't think you're going to see mass unemployment in those states. But if they do try it again, you're going to see New York, California, Washington, those types of places really start. Michigan, with Gretchen Whitmer and her ridiculous.
I just don't think people are going to
stuff.
go for it again. I don't even think my Democrat friends are going to go for mask mandates again.
What happened to rock and roll? What happened to rock and roll? Tom Morello, who was a guitarist, one of the lines from their song is, "F you, I won't do what you tell me."
Yeah.
And it was against police, but it's the whole idea of resisting authority. F you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yep.
And what happened to that? And now you got people who were doing protest songs in the 60s, 70s, coming out and saying, just get your shot, just put your mask on.
Yep.
And you're Neil Young, who sang about the Dead in Ohio and protest songs and being so angry and anti-government, anti-establishment. And remember, these protest songs were not against Republicans. They were against a Democrat administration in the Johnson administration in the 60s.
Yep, exactly.
And what happened to these that they become government shills?
I don't know what happened to them. You're right. They are shills now.
But yeah, that's. But yeah, no, I will not comply. I mean, if you're on an airplane, what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah,
you're in a metal tube. You know, if while I'm on vacation and I'm, you know, a 11-hour flight away, and they say, "Hey, listen, you need to put a mask on," what am I going to do?
Yep.
You know, hop on a freighter. You know, I'm not to the point where I can hire a private airplane to fly me from Athens back to Atlanta. Big Athens, not little Athens. So, Ken, when in the hell did we stop buying our own groceries?
I don't know. We were talking about this earlier. What the story is the Biden administration is pushing to increase the food stamp benefits to the tune of $1 trillion, which experts predict will be responsible for a 15% rise in the price of groceries at the store. So, point being here,
that happens every time they open their wallet and start throwing money at the people.
Yes. But I don't know what's happened. I mean, like when did it come around where you can't feed your own kids or you are not responsible for feeding your own children? Which I live close to Spalding County. Spalding County, we talked about it. It's all free lunches, which I don't necessarily have a problem if we're going to pay for kids to go to school. I don't necessarily have a problem with feeding them lunch every day, but it's getting to the point now where we're giving them lunch during the summer. So all the families can come to the school system and get free meals all summer. Now we're giving out gift cards to the family. So every family in Spalding County gets a $200 or $300 gift card per child per month that they can then go out and buy groceries with. And now Biden's backdooring and increased the food stamps. And none of this is going through Congress. And that's what this whole thing is. He's backdooring all this additional money going into the SNAP program. And it's just driving up the cost of stuff. This is driving the cost of stuff for everybody, right? It's not just
he's been backdooring us for 2.5 years now.
Yeah, exactly. And this all started during the COVID, or all started when he came in. It actually started during COVID, probably, that we started giving out more, expanding the SNAP program.
It didn't start under COVID, but it certainly accelerated under COVID.
Yep.
Look, every time a check went out, we've discussed this before, every time a check went out, that's how much the TVs were at Walmart.
You're right.
There were TVs.
Powell, yeah, that first check went out, there were TVs flying out of Walmart.
Oh, yeah. But Jerome Powell basically said we're looking at another rate increase this year, and then he might hit the pause button.
Yep. I don't know. It's just personal responsibility to me.
But you can't cut cash loose on one end of the federal government and then have the Fed go, "Oh, there's way too much cash out there. Let's make it expensive."
Yep.
And look, when the government does that, understand what these rates do. These rates cause bond yields to come up. Municipal bonds are what the government pays to borrow money. So the more money that the government spends, because they have to borrow to spend it, they cause their own interest rate to rise. So imagine that you have a credit card, and if you maintain a $1,000 balance, your interest rate's this. If it goes up to 10, it's this. If it goes up to 100, it's this. So they're causing their own interest rates to rise because they're causing an inflation in the bond market.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And that's the municipal bonds and government bonds are the only thing that can pull money away from lending institutions, because you can go to get a savings account at Amex right now at 5%, something like that, maybe a little more.
4.25 is my Amex high yield savings account.
Yeah. I can't remember what our rate. Yeah, we got the same thing.
But you can almost you can get 5% at other spots if you want to. I mean, you can get over 5% on your cash,
which is 3% higher than my truck loan was. Well, it still is. I only owe $2,000.
Well, my home loan's only 2.7.
I refuse to pay it off because the interest rate's so low.
Yeah, so home loans are 2.7, and then you can get 4.5% on your money in the bank. Yeah, your money on the bank is more than paying for your interest right now on your home loan.
So why would you take money out of the bank and pay off your home?
I'm not. I'm paying the least amount I can on a home at the moment because that cash can go straight into the bank and make more than my home loan APR.
Right. And look, you can't do it now, but it's almost like if you had taken a home equity loan a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, it would have paid the interest on it.
Yeah, why in the hell would you pay that off? Take that money, stick it in interest-bearing savings account or in a CD, and use the proceeds to pay the damn second mortgage.
Yeah, it's free money. Oh, well.
All right, so GSP got Donut Boy.
Man, everybody was talking about this story. If people don't know who we're talking about, there was a truck this week up in downtown Atlanta that was doing donuts in the middle of the road. And this is what I don't understand, Dave. This guy's doing donuts, and there's people standing around watching. Like, what happens when this guy has to leave or his truck goes out of control? But anyway, so he's doing donuts. He sees GSP, takes off up the road, runs over somebody, breaks their leg. I don't know how this guy didn't kill the guy that he ran over. State Patrol officer pulls up behind him, pits him, jumps out of his car, and literally the whole thing took less than 10 seconds. Pulls the guy out on the front of the State Patrol car, flips him over and handcuffs him. I don't know if you saw all the GSP photos this week, but they're using that in their recruiting ads now. But
noticed that it was not APD.
No, this was GSP. Yep.
Well, no, APD is not going after burnouts.
No, they're not.
This is not an indictment against individual officers. This is an indictment of the mayor's office and the leadership at APD.
No, they just let this stuff occur. No, but this state patrol officer didn't. I mean, and this guy looked tough.
And look, their argument would be that person would not have broken legs if the guy in the truck didn't see GSP pull up.
Yeah,
that's going to be their argument.
Yeah, and it will be, but I just thought this was a cool moment for GSP. That officer, all his buddies within the State Patrol was giving him high fives on this. I just can't believe how quick he pitted that truck and pulled and snatched this kid. I mean, he just takes one hand and just snatches him out of the car and throws him over, and he's in handcuffs. And the still photo image of this is just amazing. The guy's got tats all on his arms, so he looked like a tough guy. But cool moment. If we didn't have a mule of the week, this guy could be like the hero of the week.
Yeah. Well, the driver being the mule.
Yes, driver being the mule, definitely.
And look, I've done donuts, but it's always in a parking lot or something like that. It was 46-year-old Dave does not do donuts unless it's Krispy Kreme. But yeah, I mean, kids do donuts and stuff, and there was laws passed recently that make it illegal to do donuts in a closed parking lot and stuff. And I don't get it, because the only vehicle you're going to wreck is your own.
Yep.
And if you cause any damage to the parking lot, they can get you for vandalism. So
yeah, this is what happened to the DA down in Columbus. Remember, he was doing donuts in a campaign video and faced charges.
Yeah, if you have the landowner's permission, like if I were running for office and I went to a local landowner here and said, "Hey, listen, I need a parking lot to do some donuts for a video," they said, "No problem, Dave. You can." Then there should be no charges. It's a closed track. It's nobody's around, and it was. We're not gonna get off in that conversation, because obviously, if you put a movie camera and a director behind it, they're doing a new Fast and Furious.
Yep, you're fine.
Yeah. All right. So Georgia Senator revives. Put your glasses on, Dave. A bill to ban gender discussions at school.
Yeah, I saw this last week when I don't know how this came up. Maybe it came up on a notification on Facebook. So they had a hearing in the Senate last week, and it was by the Education and Youth Committee to look at new language in a Senate bill that really got killed last year. And this is by State Senator Cardin Summers, who is out of the Cordell area. So basically, the Democrats are phrasing this as a "don't say gay" bill, like Florida, all Senator Cardin's, he kept saying this over and over to hear, and he said, and this is a quote from him, all we're simply saying is if you're going to talk gender to a child under 16 years old, you need to talk to the parent, which I pretty much agree with, right? I don't think we got to have activist teachers out there talking to 8-year-olds about changing their gender or being gender fluid or any of that kind of stuff. I think all that is parental. All that should be parents' responsibilities. But what I found very interesting about this bill, and I'll be quick here, is one of the expert witnesses that he had testify was a lady called Kate Hudson, who is from the Education Veritas group. She's trying to get this to go after private schools also. And that's what I had a big problem here is I think the concept's fine, but she said that they want to also not only do this to public schools in the state of Georgia, but private schools in the state of Georgia. And that part of the bill has got other groups in Georgia, Frontline Policy Council especially, coming out, which is a conservative group, coming out against this bill because you got to stay away from private schools. If parents are going to spend $10, $20, $30, $40,000, parents can do whatever the heck they want at that point, right? We don't need the government coming down and breathing down on the necks of private schools. So I think this bill is not going anywhere, but I thought that was very interesting how they're trying to start to regulate what private schools do in Georgia.
When I first saw her name, my niece's name is Katie Hudson with a T.
Okay.
It's like, what the hell did Katie have to do with talking to kids' gender in school?
Yeah, and her quote was, "Parents are faced with deprogramming their kids every day and feeling trapped in a private or public school." Like, no parent is trapped in a private school. You have to pay money to go to a private school. So who's feeling trapped, right? This is just more control.
And look, the headmasters of those schools are very aware of how much the parents pay.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
And most private schools are parent-driven.
They are, right.
And if they find a teacher that is not toeing the line, that teacher's gone.
Yep, exactly.
You know, when one classroom represents $1 million.
Oh, I know, exactly.
To the school, you don't let a teacher start pontificating on politics from that teacher's point of view. No, that these parents are paying a lot of money.
Yeah, I know.
Millions of dollars are involved in this, and these headmasters are not about to let that happen. But you're right. The legislation is dead on arrival.
Yeah, it's dead. And honestly, why do you have a hearing in the middle of August? I thought that was kind of silly. But anyway, the legislation's not going anywhere. But it was just, I turned this on, I watched part of the hearing, and I said, why are they trying to do more regulation of private schools?
Per diem is why they do it.
It was per diem. Yep.
Yeah. So especially if you're coming from somewhere else in the States, not just per diem, it's lodging and everything else.
Yes, the chairman is from Northeast Georgia, so I'm sure he got to spend a couple of days in Atlanta and got some per diem and some meals.
Go to Hal's.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe catch a couple Braves games.
Yep.
And each day do 2 hours of a hearing. Yeah,
yep.
Perfect. All right, we got a one and done for Rich McCormick, maybe.
Yeah, so last year or earlier this year, the Supreme Court actually struck down the congressional maps in Alabama. So if everybody remembers, last year we had to redraw all the district lines in Georgia and throughout the U.S. So Alabama last year redrew their lines. There was a lawsuit against those newly redrawn congressional maps, and the Supreme Court struck it down. So now that same group has filed a lawsuit against Georgia and how they redistricted. And if you remember, we had in District 6 and 7, Congressional District 6 and 7 last year, they were Democrats. What the Georgia legislature did is made one district really safe, and then they made one district really, really Democrat controlled. And Rich McCormick won the safe district, and Lucy McBath is now in the Democrat controlled district. Well, Republicans are really worried now in the state of Georgia that the Supreme Court's going to strike down the Georgia maps. There's going to be a special session called later this year. And look, Georgia's about 53% Republican versus Democrat. Everybody's seen that in the last couple elections. out of the 14 congressional members we have in Congress, 9 are Republicans and only 5 are Democrats. That's 35%. So I assume when the Supreme Court looks at our maps and looks at Georgia as a whole and says, hey, the state's purplish, 53 Republican, 47 Democrats, y'all should have more representation in Congress. I think they're going to strike it down. And I think in turn, Rich McCormick's district's got to be redrawn and he's probably going to lose re-election.
Well, if they have to start redraw districts, let's take Lucy McBath out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean,
she's a one-trick pony anyway. I
yeah,
really
she's a one-trick.
Do not like that woman.
But I think they're going to have to draw the seats where it's more, like out of 14, I think it's going to be more 8-6ish or 8-6.
That's problematic for Congress.
It's totally problematic. So this could have huge implications on Congress, because the Republicans only control 2 or 3 seats in Congress at the moment. So if we have to kick out our maps that we drew from a congressional perspective, now this doesn't have anything to do with local state representatives or state senator maps. This is all congressional, but it could really affect the control of Congress over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it could. All right, we're going to skip Putin stuff. Here's the thing. Don't screw with Putin if you don't want to get blown up in an airplane.
Not blown up in an airplane or poisoned.
Yeah. Well, by the way, it was a last minute ad of a case of fine wine that they think did it.
No, really. Wow.
Yeah. That's the latest thing. But this is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions, not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at thegeorgiavirtue.com. Kenny, I came up with the mule this week.
You did. Go for it.
This kind of hits close to home. Publix will no longer be doing hurricane cakes.
I've never had a hurricane cake.
Well, you've never been in a hurricane?
No, I haven't.
All right. So, look, the tradition in places like Florida, Louisiana, the coast of Texas is you have a hurricane coming, you throw a party. I mean, it's a hurricane party. I mean, that's just the way the way it is when you live in these areas that have this. One, you don't have to be at work tomorrow.
Yep.
2, Florida, let's say that they get more than their fair share of deliveries from the beer trucks. Only in Florida do you see a guy riding a 10-speed down the street with a 12-pack in each hand. But this thing, of course, I'm a Floridian. I'm a natural Florida man. But up until now, the bakery would sell cakes with hurricane themes on them, and it's just a way of kind of acknowledging adversity's coming, and you kind of meet it with a smile on your face and all that stuff. But Publix corporate has said that that's against our policy, and we won't allow it.
Okay.
That's just a. Publix is founded and it's still headquartered in Lakeland, Florida. What the hell's the matter with them?
Yeah,
they're a Florida store.
Hey, if you want a hurricane cake, bake a hurricane cake or make a hurricane cake. Yeah, this is weird.
Well, you could still say it's Hurricane Frida that's coming. You can still say welcome Frida. Yep. But what they were doing was they were decorating like cookie cakes and stuff with hurricane signals on there, or the cone of influence, or cone of possibility, and showing the state, and all done in icing and stuff, and putting it out. And look, they only did this, the bakery managers do this because it sells.
Right.
Because people like them.
Yep.
If people didn't like it, the bakery managers wouldn't do it because the cakes wouldn't sell. But if you've ever been through a hurricane, it's similar to a forecast of half inch of snow in Georgia. The first thing that is everything gets boarded up. Right. The grocery stores and liquor stores are the last stores open. I mean, up until the point where the storm is imminent, like it's at the door, will they go ahead and close up and put the plywood over the last door? But the liquor stores and grocery stores stay open, and of course they sell out of batteries and all that stuff. But the other thing is they sell out of beer and baked goods and party supplies.
Yep.
But yeah, I just for crapping on their customers and just being a stick in the mud, they are the mule.
Yes, a good mule.
All right. Trump update.
which took up a lot of airtime last week. We've already talked about this a little bit. So we had the debate on Wednesday, and then Trump turns himself into the Atlanta Fulton County Jail on Thursday. Did you watch it? Did you watch it live on TV?
No. Dude, it's 100 degrees outside. I was working. No, man, look. He was in for 15 minutes. Fani made him do a mugshot, which one is degrading. Two is a horrible idea because the first thing they did was stick it on a T-shirt for pro-Trump.
Yes. People are changing their profile photos on Facebook. Trump's got it on a Never Surrender T-shirt that he's selling for $47.
Fani, you ignorant slut.
It was idiotic to give him more coverage of the event by doing the mugshot. That was the dumbest thing ever, and it's going to backfire. What I thought was interesting is he used a Foster bail bonds to actually pay for his bail. I didn't know how I thought that would work, but a lot of the guys that got indicted used this little Foster bail bondsman to pay for their.
He's probably part of the inner circle.
Must be.
Probably a donor.
Yes, has to be.
And may not have cost him anything. Cost Trump anything. He may have said, "No problem, Mr. President. I'll put up the bail."
Yeah, you think he just covered it?
Maybe. I don't think that the 200,000 would put Trump in a bad position.
So
there are certain.
Go ahead.
There's certain reasons that the court wants you to use a bail bondsman.
Yep.
And that one of those is that if you don't show back up, it's not the marshals don't have to go and get you. The bondsman will do it to no cost to the court. We don't see that being a likelihood with Trump because the same thing with a mugshot. Where in the hell is Trump going to go in the entire world that they're not going to recognize him?
Did he practice his pose for this mugshot?
I don't know.
It's a great mugshot, though. I mean,
it is. It is.
It came out.
He
I was
defiant
like, wow.
and angry, and I mean,
and Trump was off. So one of the things I saw this morning when I got up is Trump had actually been off Twitter for better part of 18 months. He tweeted his mugshot this morning, and then Elon Musk retweeted. Look, I think this completely blew up in Fani Willis's face with this mugshot, and I think it's stupid anyway.
Well, I think the charges are stupid. I think Fani is stupid. She's a horrible lawyer.
Yep.
She is. She could hardly control how giddy she was when she announced the charges. Fani Willis. I mean, he's good. I mean, her mama named her right, Fani, because that's exactly what she wears on her shoulders. She's doing this for political advantage. She's about to be called in front of Congress.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you about. There's a couple other things I want to talk about before we run out of time. And one was this Ken Chesborough. He put in a request for a speedy trial. So in Georgia, once you put a request in for a speedy trial, it is state law that the DA has to give you a speedy trial. So, and it has to be like on the third term or something after you put the request in. So they've scheduled an October 23rd racketeering trial for this guy, which is one of the 18 co-defendants. So what's going to happen now with this guy getting a trial? Are all the co-defendants going to quickly try to sever their cases from his? And if they do, how is that going to work out if he's found guilty? And then you've got all these other co-defendants that have severed their trials or their cases. I'm trying to understand how this is going to work out from a timing perspective with this guy.
Well, timing, I don't know. Legal process, it should make no difference at all, because at trial, this person's exoneration or conviction will not be admissible.
But he will get charged for whatever was brought forth. But it's got to be, like, if he's found guilty, it's got to be a bad sign for a lot of the other defendants that are charged with the same thing. So
it is, but here's the deal. If he goes first, if he's the sacrificial lamb, he goes first, he can actually get his case to the Court of Appeals before anybody else actually has to go to court.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it'll be 2 years. And if the appeals court throws it out and says absolutely not, for whatever reason, if the appeals court throws this sucker out, then Fani's sucking high on the teat.
Yeah,
she's in trouble with the other 17 defendants. Is the appeals court has already demonstrated that they think that her charges are quote trumped up.
Yep. Yeah, and see, I was reading about the state senator. So I looked into this state senator more. His name is Sean Still. He's up in the Cobb County area because he was one of the people that got defendants also that got indicted. This guy, look, this is what Fani did. So this guy, Sean Still, state senator, on his first term, he attended one meeting at the Capitol. So he attended the one meeting where the old Georgia GOP chairman, David Schaefer, called all the electors in, the Republican electors, and they had a meeting. He came down to Capitol. He attended one meeting under advice from his lawyer, and then he left. That's the only contact he had, and she charged him with 8 counts. This is the most vindictive thing I've ever seen from a district attorney.
You have a freedom of association.
Yes. And this guy,
you are free. You're free to associate with whomever you like.
Yeah. So I feel bad that this guy's been most of them too. I mean, I think this is a whole bogus trial anyway. But if this guy truly just attended one meeting at the Capitol that lasted a couple hours, and now he's going to be charged with some kind of RICO and all the charges. Yeah, she's like way in over her head on this stuff.
Yeah, well, this goes back to pictures. Like you were talking about when you were running for office, you take pictures with anybody, right? And if one person happened to be, I don't know, child molester or whatever, you had no idea. Just somebody said, hey, Representative Pullen, can I get a picture with you? Absolutely. Come here. Put your arm around him, you smile, take a picture. Same thing here. The lawyer's like, you should go and take this meeting. Okay. He went, sat down. Nothing that I don't think he said anything. He just sat down, listened, goes, okay, got up, shook hands, left.
Yep.
You know how many meetings a week I go to with people that I don't agree with or I don't like?
And also, it was so easy from this guy to get pulled in, because I remember when I was leaving office, he was coming in. It was so easy to get pulled into what was going on in 2020 and 2021. I know what happened. This guy just got pulled into this meeting. He was one of the electors. So he was a Republican elector if Trump would have covered Georgia. And then David Schaefer says, hey, you come down. We're contesting the election results. We need you down at the Capitol in case, the judge throws out the election or gives it to Trump, whatever happened. And the guy shows up, and now he's being charged with 8 counts. I mean, are you kidding me? This is so over the top by Fani Willis. And she's got
excrement for brains.
Yep.
She really does.
Yeah.
And I know people in her office listen to the show and tell her what's said. Go ahead and tell her Dave says she has excrement for brains.
I think it's going to turn out really bad for her. I really do. No,
it's going to turn out really bad for me if I have to use my pistol in self-defense in Fulton County. I'm going to be in deep, deep doo-doo.
Well, listen, I don't think anything's going to happen to Fani Willis. She's still going to be the district attorney. But, you mentioned this a while ago, Congressman Jim Jordan has already announced an investigation into Fani Willis. So, I mean, good for him. They're going to haul her up to D.C., and they're going to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. I don't think the Georgia legislature has power for to
Jim
do.
Jordan,
yeah.
His purview is so narrow. It's only what involvement does the federal government have in this? Because he doesn't have authority over what the state does. None. The 10th Amendment takes care of that.
Yep.
He has no authority over what the state does with their charges or their laws or anything else, as long as it doesn't violate federal law. His only purview on this is, did you coordinate with anybody in the federal government? Did you coordinate with the special investigator, special counsel? Did you coordinate with the Justice Department? Who did you talk to within the federal government? That's his only purview.
Yep.
So I don't think anything's going to come of it, because she's going to go up there and say, these are the conversations I had with this person, this person, this person. And they're going to say, well, none of those conversations were illegal. And they're going to put her in front of the cameras, and she's going to smile every second of it because she is an attention whore.
Yep.
All right, Kenny, as we're running long, as we tend to do.
I know we do. Got to get down quicker.
What are your closing thoughts?
Look, nothing political. My son's at college now. My daughter's driving. It is a very lonely when everybody just leaves you at home. So my life has changed a lot over the last week, and it's really a strange feeling when the kids get old enough to do their own thing. I know a lot of people
Ken
go
is
through
on
this.
OnlyFans and Pornhub constantly.
No, none of that.
Well, when it cools off, you have more time for golf.
Yes, definitely.
Because you don't have to pick up and drop off, and who's gonna get this kid and all that stuff. I mean, if you just get your wife to retire from the school system, you guys can travel.
Yeah, no doubt.
All you need is money and health insurance and all that.
I know exactly.
All right. Well, get your ceiling fans now. A new proposal from the Department of Energy would require fan manufacturers to make more efficient motors, costing billions to do this, while saving homeowners a whopping $39 over the life of the fan.
Oh, wow.
This, I believe, is all part of a energy policy. Besides the fact that to put small business out of business and drive inflation, I really think this is an effort to free up space on the electrical grid to bring in everything that I've talked about with the stoves and the heat and air conditioning and electric cars and all that stuff. I said we don't have the grid to support it. Well, I think the Department of Energy's plan is to take every appliance in your house and make it 10% more efficient, and save those amps.
Yep.
For charging your electric car, or switching from a gas stove to an electric stove or something like that.
Makes sense.
It does until your power goes off and you have a generator that does 50 amps. And right now I can run a good portion of my house off my generator now that I've got a cord that I plug into the house and do it. But it's going to when the power goes off and everything's electric in your house, there ain't no way a 50 amp generator is going to do it.
Nope.
But anyway, on that happy news, once again, the federal government's trying to screw the little person. Big thanks to Eric Cumby, who takes our awful audio and turns it into something you listen to. Ken Poland, my partner in this endeavor. I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.